Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the market close. Let me close that there for a moment. Get this screen all nice and big. Holy banana bread. Whew. I don't know what I was thinking. I thought I was on the screen, but I wasn't. So what can I say? Anyway, it has been a very interesting day. We've got a very green market. So as you can see behind me, we got ourselves the green screen. Well, that's actually funny because a green screen is something else. But yeah, fantastic. A lot has happened today. So we had a couple of report. Well, we had one report that came out. That was our GDP month over month for Canada. That has come out. We are still in the positive on the GDP side. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. In addition to that, we also had the rate meeting for the US Fed. And exactly as we expected, they did not did not lower their or cut the rate. It's the same. The rate stayed the same today. That's pretty much what we're expecting. But the question on everybody's mind, what all economists are pretty much thinking about is, well, what's going to happen in September? And the market has already priced in a rate cut in the U.S. for September. And I got to say, when Jay Powell talked today, everything he said, whoops, I'm going to get rid of that. Everything he said really, really leaned towards a September rate cut. He was very bullish, very bullish. So to me, that's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And it could be a really good thing for us. It could be a really, 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 really good thing for us. Okay, let's take a look at the market. Just give me 1 second. That's the wrong button. All right. We're off to a beautiful day today. It must be a Wednesday. It certainly is. In the last hour, you can see we've been getting a little bit of Bitcoin moving down. But overall, when we look at the markets themselves are looking great. So the TSX is up a full 1.32%. The S&P 500 up 1.73%. Well, 1.74. Now 1.72. Okay. It's a live market. What can I say? The NASDAQ up 2.83, well, 2.87, 2.88. It's just going up. And a lot of that is powered by Nvidia, because Nvidia is having a pretty good day. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. The Dow Jones is up as well, 0.47. And I was looking at it for a second. I'm like, what is that? And I was like, oh, yeah, I added the Dow Jones. Gold is up 1.53%. Silver's up a full 2%. Oil's up a good 4%. That's not too shabby. Bitcoin, they were up, but now they have slipped into the red a little bit. They're down 0.93%. Ethereum down 0.35%. I also added Ethereum to our charts here because now that we have an Ethereum spot ETF, let's pay attention. We'll see if that price finally starts to get some upward momentum. All right, let's go over to our good old heat map. This is a nice looking heat map. I'm looking for red. There's not a lot, but there's Dollarama. Dollarama is in the hole, 1.07% down, but the banks are looking good. Well, TD's down a tiny, tiny bit, but Bank of Nova Scotia, BMO, not too shabby, up 1.69%. CNQ doing well. They didn't have the best month last month, so I'm looking forward to seeing some good numbers from CNQ this month. Imperial Oil also looking strong. Constellation Software, they're doing fine today as well. And both railroads are to the positive. CP a little bit more than CN, so not too shabby. All of our telecommunications are all up. Bell's up. TELUS is up. Rogers is up. This is pretty good. Alimentation Couche-Tard, they're up 1.08%. So you got to like this. Even Canadian Tire is up. I don't know how much they're. Well, I can click on this to see. They're up 0.94%. So not too shabby. All right. Now with this, by the way, with this map, guys, a lot of times Um, yeah, I was going to say, I was going to talk about the size here, but then I looked at it. I'm like, no, there's really, I was trying to see if there's any kind of significance. There really isn't. It's more or less just the color. The deeper the grain, the brighter the green, the higher we are. So that's fine. Of course, all of our ETFs look fantastic. VFV up a nice 1.26%. I did notice Beavis Wealth had a video out last night, and they were promoting some of our favorite ETFs. Actually, two of the ones, actually three of the ones they talked about were a VFV, XEQT, and cash. So three of the ones that they put in there. I was like, okay, yeah, those are some really good selections. So not too shabby. The US, oh boy, look at this. Let's take a gander at Nvidia. They've had a great day. They are up 12.8%. So you might be wondering what's going on. Well, they were named the basically the best chip company to buy, and that was enough to do it. Uh, and I think it was Morgan Stanley that named them this. That was enough to send them on a little bit of a pump, and it's much needed. I'm looking forward to them to getting back up to around 136, 137. So this is just a start. And their earnings are still yet to come. I don't remember exactly when they are. Somebody could tell me in chat. Something makes me think it might be next week. So we'll see. We'll see how those go. But you know what happens with earning days and Nvidia? Those tend to be some pretty good days. So we definitely have to take a step back and see what's going to happen this time around. Apple is up. AMD is up. Now, Microsoft actually had their earnings come out today, and as a result, holy banana bread, they're down. They're down a little bit. Now they have they've made the attempt to recover a little bit, but they are down. They did miss on their earnings, so and we can look at that. We can look at that a little bit later. Over to crypto. Oh boy, we got red. So we got Bitcoin. It's now down 1.19%. So it's falling as we're talking. Ethereum down 0.75%. Solana's down. Cardano's down. Who is this here? TRX. I don't know who TRX is. Oh, Tron. That's Tron. Okay. Tron is down. And there are so many random coins that I do not even know. I'm just going to grab the good mouse that I can actually zip over there a little bit better. All right, let's take a look at a coin I have no idea about. All right, we'll come in here. All right, we'll come right in. All right, let's pick. You know what? It's a red day. Let's actually pick a winner. Let's pick some winner. Here's one right here. Let's take a look. Let's see what this is. A Vega Protocol. No idea what this. Look at this? And this is a winner. This looks like a ski slope. You know, like well, it's not that steep of a ski slope. It's a beginner ski slope, but it looks like a ski slope. Look at this. I guess if we zoom in a little bit here. Oh, look at that. They have a tiny bump. A tiny bump up. No worries. I'm never going to buy a Vega Protocol. I don't know what they are. Don't know what they do. I kind of don't care, but they are one of the 14,000 random coins that are out there. I love, I'm a fan of crypto, but I'm a fan of the coins that have a bit more function. Something like Vega Protocol, no idea. The word Vega makes me think it might be associated with a game. Don't know. Anyway, that's our Vega Protocol for the day. We are coming up on the bell. We got about what? We got about 6 minutes. Well, a little bit less than 6 minutes. So that's fantastic. All right, let's get to the chat. Let's get to the chat. Holy banana bread. Whew. All right. Jersky, first in the house. You get to wear the medal. You were number one. Hello. Green day for me. I would love to know. Let me ask this question. I have a feeling almost everybody is in a green day. Is there anybody out there who's had a red day today? anybody at all. And I'm hoping that nobody answers this. I'm hoping I don't hear a single person say, yeah, I got a red day. So let's hope we don't see a red day anywhere. Vineet says, hi, all. Hello, Vineet. We got Jordan. Jordan saying, good afternoon, Candace and chat family. And those of you who watched the open to close on Friday, Jordan was there for a while. Definitely thank you once again, Jordan. That was awfully cool. Mary is in the house saying, good afternoon, everyone. And as you guys know, Mary's here. She means like the like button. She's about the like button. So you got to hit that like button. So I'm going to have a little bit of coffee here while you guys all hit that. Oh, I should make this big screen. While you guys all hit that like button. Oh, that's so good. Very, very, very good. Sammer is in the house with a hi all, and we got Bleak. Hey, from the Bleaker. Or just Bleak. You mean I shouldn't like throw an ER on someone's name. It's like, they could be like, no, it's Bleak. Don't call me Bleaker. Let's see here. 9 says banana bread Beavis. Yes, absolutely. It's actually funny. I've been thinking about, because where I use beavers as kind of it's kind of a funny thing. Part of the reason I chose a beaver in my in this week is just because of the whole thing with the CRTC, and eventually they're going to impose their rules and about Canadian content. So I'm thinking, what's more Canadian than a beaver? But I thought I might name one of them Brandon Beaver just because that would be funny. All right, 9 says BMO dropped over 5% yesterday. Yeah, there was a little bit of there's a little bit of some banking stuff going on yesterday. And there's been a lot of interesting stuff recently about the banking system, everything from the Bank of Canada providing loans to the banks to help them cover some of their losses. So we definitely have a more bumpy road ahead for the banks. I'm still very bullish on them long term, but it's going to be a rough, like 2024, 2025 will be rough. Now, not saying they're going to start falling big time. They shouldn't if those provisions hold. And now that we know the Bank of Canada seems to want to help support them, then there's probably a good chance that they can keep at least forwards to slightly up. But yeah, if you're looking for a bank that's probably going to make more profit in that amount of time, you might want to look at a smaller bank, something like an EQB. EQB would be a good choice, for example. JJ is in the house. Hello, JJ. And rumor has it, JJ might just show up on this show. I heard it. It's a rumor. We won't know until after the bell, though. That's for sure. We still got a minute and a half till the bell goes. Vic says, bought over 1,000 shares of BMO. There's somebody who knows how to buy the dip. Vic, you're really very good at buying the dip. I love it. And of course, yesterday, Trevor's in the house with a hi all. Vic says, I'm a bit on the red with BMO, but ought to swing out of it soon. JJ says, liked and dinged. Awesome. Ricardo says, good afternoon, chat. JPM is a great bank stock. There we go. There is another one. And well, actually, I only got 1 minute. I'm not going to pull something. If I pull something up right now, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to be late on the bell, and I don't want to be late on the bell. Let's see. Vic says BMO was ex-dividend July 31st also. Negative outlook by TD. I expect 1.55 drop, but went so by the time I bought at 116, it dropped to 114. Yes, so keep in mind, ex-dividend day basically means that your favorite stocks are going to drop in value that day because their market cap basically deducts the amount of dividends that they are now going to be paying out. So that happens on ex-dividend day. So don't worry, though. If you hold on, that price usually recovers pretty good after that. Oh, boy, we're down to 10 seconds. Oh, we almost had a premature bellation or bellulation. I don't know what you'd call that. It's time, though. All right. And that, folks, is the bell. The market is closed. It is over. It is done. Another day finished. Oh, by the way, and I forgot to mention this at the top of the stream. If you guys want a Friday stream, we'll do the 4 super thing again. If that happens before the end of the show, you guys got a Friday show. Simple as that. Easy peasy. All right. Ricardo says, let's see. I bought the whoops. I started to read the next comment. Let's go to Ricardo though. I had a great day today. The U.S. has opened the door on rate cuts, so my REITs and uranium exploded today. Almost a 3% day overall for the portfolio. Oh yes. So the markets in the U.S. very, very happy. They're very happy. Because if you looked at going into the rate meeting today, you were kind of like everybody was kind of banking on that September. And the worst thing that could happen today is for Jay Powell to have come in and taken more of a hawkish stance, and he didn't. He came in nice and dovish. He, and he even said, well, he said he could, without actually saying there's going to be a rate cut in September, he came pretty much as close as you can. Like he said, rate cut is something that could be on the table for September. He said that much. So yeah, the U.S. market is loving it. It's been a great day, like overall, I think, for the market. So that's kind of cool. That is absolutely cool. All right. Before I get to the next question, we got a guest. You guys know JJ. Let's just bring him in. What the heck? Hey, JJ, how are you?
This is such a spontaneous moment. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing fine. So yeah, basically,
hello everyone again.
Yeah, basically, JJ reached out this afternoon and said, "Hey, are you doing a market close? Can I come on?" So I was like, "Yeah, sure. You can come on after the bell if you want." So, hence, that's what happened, and that happened over on the Discord. So you guys can all.
Yeah.
You never know what happens on the Discord. It's a great place to hang out for sure. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm actually working at the research lab today. We're doing a couple of documents. And funniest thing was just last night, I was going over the live stream, just doing some micro analysis of basically how the live stream went, especially with regards to my overall performance. And I think I was pretty critical on how it went. So hopefully this time around, call it like a second chance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I've done so many live streams that you honestly, you just got to let it go. Let whatever happens. Some days you're going to say some stupid stuff. Some days you're going to have off days. And I'm like, yeah, let it go, because the next stream is a brand new opportunity. You can still learn from your past performance, but never get too critical about it. Just sort of like saying, oh boy, look at what I said that time. And I've said a few things that afterwards have made me blush. I'm like, uh-oh. Luckily, though, most of that stuff I've said it on like the Dancer Banter. So where the topics were a little bit looser than here.
Yeah, for sure. And I really want your opinion on, do you normally do a lot of preparations with live streams, or for the most part, do you also do a lot of pretty much on the stage improv? Because I noticed you're on camera, like your whole, I think your whole demeanor and your whole presence is very calm and collected for the most part, and a lot of props on that. So if you want to give some tips and tricks.
I could definitely point it. So, all right, my process for the live streams. Well, it's different for the two different types. So for this week, I have to do the preparation. I have to actually go collect the news. I have to prepare it, put it in its format. Then I have to create all the pictures. So that generally takes a day. So there's about a day's preparation for just the news part. Now, the thing about the questions is when you've got questions coming in from chat, you have no idea what's coming your way. So
Oh, yeah.
It's not like you can really prepare for it. So that's kind of one of the neat things. And with a market close, I would say a lot less preparation, other than, I should look at the market before I come on, and maybe go through a few websites just to see what catalysts are going on. But I do that anyway. So that's just a normal part of my daily routine. But once again, a lot of it's reaction. It's like, I
Mhm.
come on, I don't know what's going to happen. And one of these days, we're going to have a market close and something will explode in that last hour on the market. And, it'll be full on reaction to it. So it's kind of an interesting thing. And that's the thing. You never know what is going
Oh yeah.
to come. Now, when it comes to questions, I probably get there's probably about the same 10 questions I get over and
Mhm.
over again. So obviously, those questions, you're going to be calm, cool, collected. You'll be able to deliver them like you've just written a thesis on them because you're prepared. But then you get some questions that are just off there, that are off the beaten path. The big thing, and this is kind of my philosophy, is if I don't know the answer, just be straight up and say, I don't know. I'm going to have to look into it. It's one of the reasons I have the whiteboard too. I can write things down and I can get back to people. And here's another thing too. You have to sort of be respectful of the audience. So if one person has a question and you really don't know the answer, if doing a little bit of research on the show is really not going to benefit everybody else, then I will usually say, "Hey, get back to me. Come back next show. I'll have an answer for you." But sometimes the process of actually pulling an answer, depending on what the question is, can actually be beneficial for everyone. So in a case
Mhm.
like that, then I will do it. So I kind of weigh it in that way, and I will go with the flow. I will adapt as things happen. So, for example, I had no clue I was going to have a guest on today. It was an out of the blue thing. I'm like, okay, sure, why not? Let's do it. So, it goes that way. Now, the other thing too, and this is kind of important too. So right now we're talking, so it's really easy to
Mhm.
forget that there's questions and there's people there. So you
Yeah.
always want to kind of be, as the host, you want to definitely be looking at the questions. Right now, people I think are just listening to the most part. We've got a few that we still
Mhm.
need to sort of get through. But here's the beautiful thing too. When you are, for example, talking, some of the questions you can actually just sort of bring them up, and sometimes they're not really asking for anything. So you can see
Yeah.
here, Google, says I bought the dip on Nvidia just a bit too soon. It dropped some more and then rebounded today. Okay, that's fantastic. That's and I'm glad that he did that. But that's the type of question that you could just sort of bring up. And sometimes, if it's something really good, you can always do a little thumbs up, just to, as you're still
Oh.
talking back and forth. So you can still have that interaction with the audience. So see, like hola, hi. So you can do a little wave, something like that, and
Yeah.
that's always fantastic. So that way there you still get through them as you're going. But the other important thing is as you get bigger and as you get more and more people, that's when those super chats really play a role because then you want to be watching for super chats. And in a case like that, so if you get a super chat when you're having a sort of a 2-on-2 or 1-on-2 or whatever, um, you want to sort of like find a break and direct that right away. So you'd pull it up and you'd say, got a super chat from, we'll say it was Larry. Larry sent a super chat saying, let's go, pal, pump. Fantastic. So, that way you're sort of calling them out. And that to me is a really good thing because it's acknowledgement. So I always find that important.
Well, there is one comment from Jonathan that I did want to bring up. He was actually once actually late for the bell, so that's something to bring up. I
I
just wanted to bring
know
it
I'm late. This is a disaster. I know it's funny. I mean, and I think Jonathan definitely. Jonathan is always very conscientious of trying to get in before the bell, so that does happen as well. Now, Vic wants to know if you're an Android. Just putting that out there.
up. I'll leave that up to him to determine and decide, because let's put it this way: in terms of the overall Android adaptation for where it is at right now, they could pass for a human. Like there's a lot of human-like interactions that they can learn, especially from cyberspace or just overall interactions with humans in general. So let's say androids are getting much better and better in terms of adapting to any kind of scenario, and who knows? I could
Exactly.
be. So I'll just leave that as it is.
I used to work in a call center a long time ago. And I had one customer once accuse me of being a robot. And they were like, "You're just a robot. You're saying the same thing over and over again." And I just said to him, I said, "I can assure you, I am not a robot." Like that. And the funny thing is, in that setting, that person cracked up laughing, and we were able to actually accomplish, what they had called in for. Because sometimes it's just that humor thing. And I find that too, even with this. Finance is a dull topic. It's kind of boring. Let's just say it. Let's call it a dime, or a whale. It's a boring thing. But money's involved, so people are motivated, of course, to learn about it and to come in. So my philosophy is you can take anything. It doesn't matter how boring it is. You can really make it interesting. It goes back to a philosophy. A professor once told me this. He said that if you drive by a field and you look at the field, 10 minutes later, you're not even going to remember that field anymore. It was just a field. But if you drive by that field and there's some naked dude running across the field, you're never going to forget that field. It's going to be with you the rest of your life. And that's an approach I take to, I think, to teaching, to education, is that make it interesting, make it fun. And, then people remember it. And then they also remember you too. And it's like, okay, I need to learn about some new stocks. Who am I going to go to? Let's go to Candace. She's kind of fun. That's the way I look at it. And that's kind of my whole approach. Obviously, though, you'll have to find your approach when you start your channel. And your approach may be completely different than mine.
I mean, I guess in terms of my approach, it's very data and academically driven. Going back to my background, I've had a lot of teaching assistants experience. Teaching undergraduate students with regards to doing the most basic assays, such as doing microscopy, doing sorts of like molecular data analysis. And a lot of students at the end, they always come out to me and ask interesting questions with regards to my project, what I'm studying. And I feel like there's always a fine line, and when it comes to fine tuning. And in terms of teaching overall, it's not really a set in stone approach, because obviously everybody has a different learning approach, and when it comes to learning, so there's a big chunk in that. So I guess that's really where the challenge is in teaching, and to make it fun comes in. And right. So what are your comments on that?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, you can make it doesn't matter what the topic is. So for example, with science, if you were teaching science, science is definitely a huge thing. There's so many cool things in science. So you can go off on some really awesome tangents, but you can also then turn it around and you can bring it back to, for example, because of physics, you have a cell phone. Let's talk about that. You can sort of tie it into things that are real world, and you can really sort of bring it in that way. And I mean, there are people who've made a career out of making science fun. I mean, look at Bill Nye.
Oh yeah.
So you can do it with pretty much anything. Now, the professor that I was talking about, he made history interesting, because honestly, I found history to be a snooze fest every time I ever took it. But this guy came along and actually made it engaging and fun. And I was like, I can't believe I'm remembering a lot of this stuff. So just because of that approach. So to me, that's just always important. All right. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So I just had a comment on that. What is your most memorable experience with regards to that history teacher? If you can still recall I mean, I guess it's like years or decades now, but like, I guess what would be the most memorable experience if you do recall him doing or performing?
Um, I was reading. I was a little geeky then. Okay. I was I was actually reading one of the.
No judgment. We're all pretty much geeks.
I know. I was reading a novelization of the V miniseries from the '80s. So I had it on my desk, and I wasn't reading during the class,
Hmm.
but he was doing his he was talking about World War I think it was World War II, and he saw the book, and he came over and picked it up, showed it to everyone, and then explained where this story came from in regards to what was happening with the with the Holocaust and everything else back then. And I was just
Hmm.
like, holy cow! He just turned a prop from somebody's desk like that. To me, that was improv, just because obviously he didn't plan for that, but it was very effective. And plus, the other part that I think is very memorable is that when he was telling a story, so telling about, um, maybe it was the War of 1812,
Hmm.
he would tell it very dramatically, almost like, it wasn't coming out of a history book, it was coming out of a movie. So I found that animation, just putting all that emotion, all of the tones into it, I found it incredibly effective. So I think that would be my best memory of that. All right.
Okay.
Larry says he bought ASML for 868 yesterday. Now it's 936. Way to go, Larry. Way to go. Go ahead.
Oh no, I just it was more so just commentary on what you said. Yeah, for that part, I feel like a lot of these when it comes to like history, the way it's being taught in especially in grade school and even like in university, there's always a degree of when I guess being taught like when the curriculum is published, when especially teachers and professors when they follow the curriculum like by the book for the most part, it can get pretty I guess repetitive and boring in a sense. Not necessarily with information that being forced being uptaken, but it's more so I guess the approach that's being adapted. So when I see like there's always these professors that are being showcased on like TikTok. I think especially like especially physics and chemistry professors that teach in such a like hands-on approach. I remember I saw a TikTok recently that showed like the physics professor was trying to demonstrate the I guess the centripetal force, so where and inertia, and he was basically spinning a bunch of cups filled with water in a circle, and and the students sitting around the classroom were trying to avoid getting soaked, and he would go like really 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 fast, and then at one point a bunch of the cups like spilled out just because there was a change in the amount of force that was exerted, and like the students, not the students that didn't sit closest to professor got soaked, but it was the ones sitting on the outskirts. So that was really funny,
Mm-hmm.
and especially and another instance on TikTok, especially I think this was a while back, where there were some there was a chemistry professor that was basically putting on like a fire show, like he was trying to do some kind of like firebending in a sense, obviously not necessarily, but like sleight of hand and all of that. So I feel like when those professors and teachers put in such a unique way of teaching, those are the most memorable. And yeah, so that's what I wanted to say on that.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, magic is another thing that you can use. Um,
Yes.
I had this thing what I used to do with new hire classes back when I used to train. There was this one exercise I did where basically it was all about team building. So I would prepare ahead of time. I would take an envelope with every student's name on it and the word teamwork inside of it. And I would hide these all over my body. So I had, normally I do about five, 6 students. So I'd have about
Hmm.
6 of these on my body. And I would start the thing and I basically I would use language that would pretty much manipulate somebody into saying teamwork. And once they said it, I would then make pain wherever I had hidden their envelope. And so if it was in my leg, I would say, "Oh, cramp," and then I'd pull this envelope out, and it would have that person's name on it, and I'd just hand it to them. I said, "I don't know what this is doing here," and they'd open it up, and then inside. So I remember this one girl named Maya. She opened it up, and it said, "Maya says teamwork," and she's just like sitting there completely flabbergasted, like, what's going on here? How did you do that? It's just those funny little things I found that always were very effective. So, I did used to do that. A little bit of sleight of hand. Probably the funnest or the most fun one I did is I was talking about some of the modems that we had and some of the modems our competitors had. And I said, and here's one of these old modems one of our competitors have. And this guy in the class was like, "Oh my God, yeah, those are pieces of S." And he said the S word. And as he did, I had palmed in my hand a little ball bearing. I said, "No, they're not. They're good." And I shook it, and then the ball bearing falls. Then, of course, that just brought out a lot of laughter for that simple reason. So, you can use a lot of different tools, effects. On this channel, obviously, I haven't been doing magic or anything. I'm like, there's no need. I just use, like I said, I just do the personality. I be real and a little bit of fun, and it goes over well, I think.
I feel like your personality already brings a lot to the table, and who knows? Maybe you can take on magic again and bring it on, and that could be part of the 5,000 subscribers series, doing a magic show.
There we go, a magic show for 5,000. Oh boy. Well, the only problem is though, right, is that because you're going across video, it makes it less. It sort of suspends a little bit of the belief, right? Because they were like, "Oh yeah, well I can't see what's going on underneath the rectangle," and it makes it harder. But that would be kind of fun. That still would be kind of fun. I have to start thinking about that. But right now I'm not yet there. But soon. All right. We do have one question here. Jay wants some info on HPYT. All right, let's pull that up here. Or at least attempt to pull it up. All right. Sometimes that does that. I just reload it and then bang. Okay, HPYT. All right. So this is your Harvest Premium Yield Treasury. Now, a lot of people right now are looking at treasuries because as rates go down, treasuries do tend to go up. They have an inverse relationship to interest. So let's just take a look at the last year. You can see it's been going down. So, you're kind of, I think in this case, Jay is expecting that, once we hit September, this one is going to start doing a little bit better. Well, actually, this is Canadian. This is on the Canadian exchange. So I'm surprised we haven't seen a little bit of movement yet on it. We have seen some treasury ETFs that have already started coming up. But when you look at this one, you got a huge dividend yield on it. So 16.187%. So your question, though, is Yahoo Finance doesn't have a lot of information on it. All right, fair enough. So this is what I always suggest is if you want information on an ETF of this nature, HYPT ETF. Let's just put it here. All right. And let's see here. Harvest Premium Yield. Here we go. So go to the page. Harvest will have a page for it. You've got a product sheet. You have ETF facts. You've also got an investor brochure. It'll tell you tons of information. So everything is in here. Everything with, let's see here. Your latest distribution was 15 cents monthly. It gives you an idea of their investment goal, some of the benefits. You can find out as well, of course, like, for example, here's your management fee, 45%. Their risk level, they're actually saying it's kind of like in between low and medium. So you got a lot of great information here. But I always suggest if you're looking, especially if it's a new ETF, visit the page. Get the information from the horse's mouth, because to me that's huge. Definitely huge. All right. Whew. All
I would
right.
just add on HPYT. I think one of the reasons why the price hasn't really rebounded that much is because they do 100% cover calls, which means that the upside is pretty much capped. So that's what I think. That's also one of the reasons why their risk rating is a bit lower, because they have a much bigger downside quote unquote protection because of the huge yield. But in terms of like price rebound, it's going to be much slower because they're 100% capped.
Yeah. That's absolutely true, because where it is covered calls, and look at the size of that dividend.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be hard to get, like, they're paying out a lot of that upside to you. So it's an income stock. I would look at it as being an income stock. You will get a little bit, like, as we get into the core part of rate cuts, you'll probably get a little bit of growth, but I wouldn't look at this as being a huge total return stock. I'd look at it as more of an income stock.
Yeah.
All right.
I would say in terms of like, because I do hold a lot of income driven holdings in my portfolio, just because like I really like the dividend distribution. But in terms of my portfolio, I would never hold anything that does upside capture of more than, like, cover calls on more than 50%, because then it gives like a good balance between price appreciation and dividend. So I would never do more than that, because I feel like in terms of total return, it's still pretty like balanced overall, because even though if you see a huge yield like at the back end, the stock price could be like dropping. Just look at the huge ones by like YieldMax and Defiance, those 0 day to expiry ones on the New York Stock Exchange. Those ones, in terms of like, you'll see that the NAV is falling a lot, but then they also give those very ginormous yields. But when you actually calculate the total returns, they're actually not much better than I believe they're not much better than those covered calls that are only done on like 35% to 50%, such as by JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs. So in terms of overall total return, it's best to always do a balance. So yeah, that's pretty much my 2 cents on that.
Yeah.
Do you
I would
anything
agree.
to add?
Now, Larry's pointing out we got a little bit of a crisis going on in the Middle East. That does have the potential to be a catalyst for the price of oil, big time. So that might be something to sort of think about. So if you do have oil stocks, maybe they're about to go back in the green. So we'll have to see how this all sort of boils down and works out. I will point this out, though. The last few crises that we have had in the Middle East have not pumped the price of oil as much as you would expect, at least not as much as historically we've seen in the past. So I would still temper that, but it doesn't hurt to be paying attention to world events for sure, because they can have a huge impact on the price of a lot of different things. All right, Jonathan. That's a good one. That is a good one. Yep. So you ran across the field after my car's already gone by. Darn it. I missed it. All right. I did ask for this at the beginning of the stream. I wanted to know if anybody had a red day, and Tom had a red day. So a $10,000 buy at $16 for Air Canada at the start of the market to average down. Well, it continued to tumble down to $15.79. A long-term hold, though, $40K in. Yeah. And this is the thing. I always keep saying that under $20, Air Canada is a buy, even though, you might be looking at it and say they're always under $20. Well, they've been a buy for a while. They will go above 20 again. They always do. But we're not going to get back to where they used to be. And probably helps if I actually bring this up so people can see Air Canada. Let's actually get to the right screen. One of the problems with having way too many tabs open. All right, here we go. I'm just going to bring the 10-year. So you can see at one point Air Canada had this huge rise up. I guess they were taking off. And then they got grounded by the pandemic. And as you can see, they got grounded. Like at that one point, they were down to like, look at this, right here. Let's go on this day here. They made it down all the way to $9.26 on that one pen. Oh, I would have loved to have been able to gobble up some on that day. But they did manage to get back up to around 25. And then we move into a bull market, or sorry, a bear market. And they did get back up again, but now they're down again. And look at this, 1591 right now. So yeah, that's at least you've got a little bit back, because you mentioned it went down to 1579. So you got a tiny bit back. Hopefully tomorrow it rebounds a bit. I do see Air Canada getting back up to about 25 at one point in the future, especially as we move into a more bullish market for them. However, I just don't see them getting back up to 50, not for a very long time, because you got to realize all of that damage that happened to Air Canada, they were diluting like crazy. So almost the amount of cash they would need to get back up there is crazy. So it's not going to happen anytime soon. So even right now, midterm, I would say, I don't even want to say short to midterm. I'd say probably early midterm to later midterm, we should be able to get back up to 25, maybe a little. We might even make it all the way to 30, but I don't see us going much more above that. All right. What do you think, JJ, about the airlines?
Honestly, with I think with the continuous rise, especially from the pandemic, with better video capture software, I feel like I don't think airlines would probably ever rebound to what they used to be before the pandemic, especially since video capture software such as Zoom, Microsoft Teams, they're getting so much better year after year. And like even recently, there was a pretty big Zoom update, and it just made the interface much better. So, because right now corporations like worldwide, they're always trying to save more money that can give back to investors. And so with the ongoing rise of better virtual meetings and setups, I don't think even like in the short term, like airlines will probably ever go back to pre-pandemic rates. And so like in terms I feel like if you do want exposure to airlines in general, I think going with like a travel and leisure ETF. For example, I do hold like a very small position in the Harvest Travel ETF. I think the ticker is TRVL, and it's done pretty decently. It's not the best, but I feel like it's better than holding Air Canada, because I think I do agree with you that I don't think its price would rebound like that much, especially in the shorter term.
Yeah.
Maybe in the long run, in like 10 to 20 years, maybe, but who knows?
I did just bring up, this is a analyst projection for Air Canada. And right now they're projecting 1 year out. They're projecting $23.52. So a lot of people are thinking, a lot of analysts are thinking we're going to get back above that $20 line. But I'll tell you, I wouldn't buy above $20. I just wouldn't. I really wouldn't. To me, that would be a hard no. And kind of in a way, probably 19. I probably wouldn't even buy above 19, but under 19, yeah, I definitely think they're in a good spot. So one of the cool things, by the way, guys, this is off of simplywall.st. If you're ever looking for data like this, they are. If you have the free version, you can do 4 of these a month. So you can go to 4 different companies a month. If you have the paid version, I think 30. You can do 30 a month. But there's a little workaround here. If you've got multiple email addresses, you can create multiple profiles in in Chrome, for example, and each one can get the 4. So if you got a couple, if you got a work email address, your home email address, maybe you got a spam email address, it's a pain in the butt. But if you don't want to pay and you want to get more than 4, you could do that and get, if you had those 3, that would be like 12. So that's not too shabby. Just point that out. And I mean, and this site, it does have a lot of good stuff in it. You can find pretty much data and charts galore on everything you're looking for. So I do find I use it a lot. I use it a lot. Like it's very, very helpful. And one of the things I love too, let's just go, for example, I'm going to go to, so this here. So this here is using the discounted cash flow model. So as you can see, current price $16. And they're calculating a fair value of $1.05, $105.99. But you can also pull up all of the raw data to see everything that they're using in the formula. So you can actually go through this and you can sort of get a feel for what they're looking at. And for me, that's fantastic to have access to the raw data as well. So definitely cool. All right, let's we need to take a final look at the market, but we'll do that here in a moment.
Sure.
Let's see. Vineet says we all make mistakes. Well, most of us. Yeah, we all make mistakes. That's what it's actually funny. In the video that's dropping on Thursday. What is today's Wednesday? Friday.
Today is Wednesday, yeah.
Friday. I have to keep it straight in my mind because channel members can see it a day early. So channel members will see it tomorrow. That's the next 0 to 100K. I actually have a line in there about making mistakes. I'm like saying, hey, if you're not making mistakes, you're doing it wrong. The goal, though, is simply to make less mistakes than when you're right. So you want to be right most of the time, or at least more of the time, and that will make you successful overall as an investor if you're, right more than you're wrong. But be prepared to be wrong. You will buy things that tank. There's nothing you can do about it. It will happen. All right. And Vinny is saying never buy airlines. And Jonathan's kind of following there. I would never own an airline for the long term. And Tom is, yeah, exactly. My thoughts are to hold AC until 20, then sell off. I like that. That's a perfect idea, I think. Let's see. Thoughts on ZWC? I'm getting out of it soon. Terrible yield and bad share price appreciation. Oh, let's take a look. Let's take a gander here. ZWC, one of the BMO ones. You would think by now I could click on the right button. You'd really think I could, but I just absolutely can't. ZWC, here we go. So here we go. This is their Canadian high dividend covered call. All right, let's take a look. Now, mind you, bear market, that's fine. I'm always willing to forgive that, but you got a 7.057% yield. You do have covered calls, but yeah, that's not a great yield. Let's go into some key. Go into their key data here. Yeah, it's not. I mean, they are what they are. Let me put it that way. It is because they're run by BMO. They're definitely going to be a little bit on the safer side. BMO does have well-managed funds. However, there are lots of better options out there if you really want to pump up your yield. You're going to find, I will say this for most banks. For most of the big six, if they have a product, an ETF, even if it's covered calls, they're erring well on the conservative side. So because of that, you're just not going to get some of the higher dividends. You're not going to get, it's almost like you're getting a watered down version of what you can get through something like a Harvest or a Hamilton ETF. So just something to think about. That's the way I look at it. Let me ask you a question here, JJ.
Mm-hmm.
What are your favorite ETFs? What do you like? Well,
I'm pretty sure you already know which one of at least one of them that I keep asking for a deep dive on. Do you remember the name?
I
trick
do.
Question? Well, it's not a trick question, but I've said it pretty much all the time on each deep dive, probably since I think about 2 months ago. So that's the first time.
And I went out of my way to try to get a deep dive on that one for you. I even went down to just them and one other, and they still lost.
It was really close. Like I used because like even though they are relatively new, but the fact that okay, so it's the Evolve QQQY. So the so it holds 41 of all of the technology list names on the Nasdaq, and it pretty much tracks the price performance of all of them. And when in the bull run, I've calculated this. Even though their inception date was like I think October of 2023, so their total performance so far, it's actually beaten the QQQ, the Nasdaq 100 ticker, and makes sense, right? So um, all of the technology names, like most of the technology names, they're pretty much propping up the Nasdaq for the most part. So when you like concentrating even more into just the technology names, technology listings, like in when the Nasdaq is on a bull run, oof, it will drive very high. And since 2 months ago, they actually had a pretty much 60%, 70% dividend increase from, I think their original annual yield was like less than like 9%. And then it shot up to like 15%. So when you factor that, assuming that it doesn't change, it's it's really good. So I've added a little bit since the beginning, but then recently the Nasdaq did crash. So it's it's a time. I think it's a really good time to average down, especially since yeah, it's one of the best ones. And I would say some of the other ETFs I do hold, in addition, would be the Global X All Equity Leveraged version, so HEQL, because I think stomaching 25% leverage is not that bad, especially since it's all equity. So in terms of like overall, it's, it gives you a little leverage. It gives you a slightly higher enhanced yield. And another one I do hold is VDY, so the Vanguard Quality Dividends ETF. And so, yeah, I think those are my top three so far. It might change a little bit later. And what about you? What do you hold?
Oh God.
You don't have to hold them, but what do you like?
Yeah, well, it boils down to what I like. I love the idea of the all equity. So XEQT, I love it. I think
Yeah.
it's a really good diversification ETF, and it gives you, of course, access to the U.S. market, to emerging markets. It's got crazy, like it's got something like 9,000 stocks in it. I mean,
9,087 from the last time I checked.
there we go, 9,000. Well, I was rounding, but it's a fantastic ETF. It's not, of course, you're flashy. It's not going to give you all of those big wins. Another ETF that I'm crazy about right now. This one's situational. Is of course RMAX. It's, for me, I'm looking at what I see happening to REITs. We already can see in the U.S. REITs are starting to recover faster than Canada. That's one of the things I like about RMAX is RMAX has, well, half of the REITs are the U.S. REITs, half are Canadian. Canadian REITs are just getting ready to starting to improve and to recover as we see more and more rate cuts starting to come along. So that's going to be really, really strong. Will this be a forever one? Probably not. I'll probably ride it up because it's a rare opportunity to get a high dividend and a lot of capital growth as it grows. Because normally Hamilton has this habit of starting a new ETF when it's up near an all-time high. So then if you get it, you're you'll have your dividend, but boy, you're coming down. You're going to, and it's going to take you a while to get back to where you're at. So this is an opportunity where it's at the bottom, and they started it at the bottom, and it's like, oh man, this is designed for a total return investor who wants some income as well. So that to me is another one. Now here's an interesting one as well. I do like HYLD. It's got you got that exposure to the U.S. through the various ETFs that it holds, and you got a half decent covered call version on it, or sorry, half decent yield on it. So, and even though it did go down. So they started, once again, they started this one at an all-time high.
That was
And
the example for
it
sure.
went down through the bear market, but it's recovering nicely. And I like the fact that even though they cut the dividends a little bit going down, they've now brought them right back. So to me, it's one of these things, like, a lot of times you don't get to see the test of time when you're, if you're jumping on a newer ETF. This one here, we've already seen. This is what happens when things go wrong. And if you hold it and wait, you've still got all those lovely dividends, but now you know what happens in recovery. So I do like that about that as well. So that's another one that I do like. Now, I don't hold it. Unfortunately, I don't hold it right now. And I think a part of it is, I don't know. I don't know why I don't hold it. So sometimes it's kind of crazy. Like, there are assets I've looked at, especially doing what I do when I pull up the list and stuff. I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh man, that is such a great stock. Why don't I own it? So that's a question I do ask a lot. All right, before we go any further though, let's take that final look at the market. Holy banana bread. Oh boy, Bitcoin has continued. They are still falling. So as we can see, that's kind of ongoing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh well, it happens. It happens. But it will bounce back.
Did you pick up any?
Bitcoin. It always comes back. Canadian market looking good. We finished a nice strong 1.25% up. NASDAQ 1.58. Sorry, NASDAQ. S&P 500 1.58. And look at the NASDAQ. Up a full 3% today. Not too shabby. The Dow Jones. I'm going to have a cup of coffee. There we go. The Dow Jones just up a little bit, 0.24%. Gold up 1.54%. Silver 2.17%. Oil is up 4%. Now, going back to Larry earlier saying watch oil because of the tensions right now over in the Middle East. Well, he's not wrong completely. We do have a little bit of a bump here. I can't say that is definitively in regards to the conflict over there, but it could be. It could be. So Bitcoin way down now, minus 2.29%. Same idea. ETH down minus 1.45%. Holy banana bread. The heat map, once again, I like having a red day. I like having a green day every so often. But there are losers. Let's just get rid of the winners. Normally we go the other way around, but there we go. So you can see the big losers today. First National, 3.9% down. Toy. What is Toy? They must be, Spin Master. The Spin Master is down big time, 4.70%. Yeah. So we do have some that are down big time. Over here on the US, once again, look at this. Nvidia up 12.81%. And that makes me kind of wonder. Tesla's up too, by the way, 4.24%. But I wonder what Nvidia is doing in the after hours. Well, let's take a gander here. Where is Nvidia? It's in here somewhere. It is in here, I promise. Oh. Yeah, no, I'm in the right place. All right. Oh, there it is. All right, Nvidia, let's pull it up. And actually, I'll have to go over here to it because that one will not let me put it on the main screen, but here, this one will. All right, Nvidia. All right, so here we are in the post. You can see right now sitting at 118.80. So it is still going up even in the post. Let's see how much more they can do in the after hours. So that'd be kind of cool. And last but not least, oh God, crypto. Giant red. It's like, yeah, it's just red. It's a lot of red, too much red. But tomorrow's another day. We'll have to see how things look tomorrow. All right, let's very quickly, while we're still here, I'm just going to come over here to our, where am I looking for? I'm actually, there we are, looking for the schedule. Oh boy, I have got to update the schedule, folks. I always like do a month at a time, so I need to do it soon because we're running out of stuff. So we do have the 0 to 100K coming out here on August 2nd. So Friday, we'll have a live stream on the 4th. And by the way, if you guys want that market close on Friday, we're still waiting on 4 supers. That hasn't happened yet, so it's starting to look a little less likely. But then again, you guys are the type that you come in at the last minute. Like you guys, I don't know how many times you've come in like bang, bang, bang at the last minute. So that's kind of cool. We also need to start thinking about our next milestone for 5,000 subs. We're slowly getting there. Right now we're at 4061. So, it's another 939. It can happen. It can happen faster than you think. All right. And I don't know about the magic show. All right. Let's bring the big heads back again. Whew. There we go. Al says, let's see. I knew and was the big stock yesterday. I was worried when I saw Microsoft drop 6% in after hours. So I was really keeping my fingers crossed for AMD. I'm glad it crushed their earnings report. Saved me. There we go. Yes. Yeah. I'm still very, very bullish on Microsoft, guys. I see a drop like this because of a bad earnings report as more of an opportunity if you want to add more. But I'm pretty bullish on them. That's for sure. Who are your favorite tech stocks, JJ?
So I built computers from scratch for on the side just for fun. So I would say definitely AMD is on the top. Actually, no. First is Nvidia on the top of the list. Then we have AMD. They crushed their recent earnings report with their new ones, with their recently released, soon to be released Zen 5 technology, supposedly. So I actually do follow a lot of tech channels on YouTube. Most of them are in the US, and a bunch of them recently did a huge reveal on the new Strix Point HX AI technology that was done by AMD, and they pretty much crushed the performance. They dominated Intel in pretty much all sectors. Well, now that their performance is much higher, they are sacrificing battery life a little bit. However, in terms of the laptop space, AMD is definitely the good way to go on that. Then third, we have, I would say, Microsoft. Microsoft, because I do really like their Copilot AI chatbot, because I do use it a lot for research purposes, and writing down using their proprietary search engine, and they're pretty accurate in terms of like pulling data. So I am a little bit biased on that. And then I was at top 3, and then next one I would say Alphabet for the most part. In terms of, I would put Alphabet 4th, and I guess that's a little bit of my list. What about some of your favorites? What do you like?
Well, I mean, one's going to be Apple. Well, it won't be number 1, but it's one of the favorites. I'm not putting them in a specific order, but Apple, for the one reason that
stability.
They have such a huge share of. First of all, they have a huge share of the cell phone market, and their products are usually just like Apple is not. They're not innovators. Let's just say this: they don't come out and they don't create new stuff. They wait for other people to create the stuff, and then they say, "Okay, you created that crappy thing. Let us make it really good."
Yeah,
that's kind of their model, and I'm okay with that. You know what? They're honest about it. They're not claiming to be the creating the first cell phone or creating the first this or that. But I do like their products. I love, like right now, I'm using an iPhone as my camera. It's broadcasting through a Mac Studio. Over on the side here, I've got a MacBook Pro. I've got a Mac. I got an iPad. I got, I even my watch is a Mac. But one of the things I love about it, and I think this is one of the reasons that you get so much loyalty with Mac customers, is that everything is seamless. Like I can take my mouse on my main computer and I can drag it over onto the laptop. And I can do stuff. I can copy and paste off the laptop, drag it back and have it and use it on the computer itself. So I get this whole movement. And if I turn it on, I can even answer the phone on my computer if I want to, because everything is just totally mixed. You know, I don't want to say mixed, but it's one ecosystem. I only have to enter a new password on one device, and every other device now knows that password. So it's just very, very convenient. And of course, making YouTube videos, holy banana bread, it's a time saver. When I finished, so today, after I filmed the 0 to 100K challenge, I then spent probably about 5 hours in the edit. Once I finished the edit, it took my computer about 10 minutes to process and save it. That's it.
That's really fast. Do you use DaVinci Resolve?
I use Final Cut Pro.
Oh, okay.
So once again, a Mac product, which
Yep.
ties in well.
Optimized for Macs for sure.
Yeah, no, it doesn't take that long. If I make a lot of cuts in the video, it might take 15 minutes opposed to 10. But it really depends on how complicated or how complex I'm making the video. Now, the 0 to 100K doesn't actually. The one that's the most complex is the list videos. So the 5 whatever stocks, because I have to make all kinds of individual, like every single line on the that I present is a separate little item in there that I have to manually create and put them all in. And it's actually really funny too. I tried to find a way to speed things up. So I found an AI program that a bunch of people on YouTube were talking about. And they're like, oh yeah, this will cut out all the empty spaces for you. I'm like, okay, let's try this. I'll try the free trial. And it went in and it cut out the empty spaces, but I just didn't like how it cut it. Because one of the problems is I try to avoid having a jerky, picture. I do my best to avoid that. So before I would cut out, when I first started editing, I would just cut out the empty spaces and there'd be jerkiness. So nothing you could do about it.
Yeah.
Then I eventually moved to the point where it's like, okay, let's try not to remove all the breaths. We'll leave a few in. But what we'll do is, we'll remove the bigger ones and we'll cut them out. And sometimes I'd look for ways to cut things out. But now I'm at the point that I do a couple of things. So I have 3 basic edits in a video. So the first edit is if I take a breath. So I'm going like, say, and the brown fox jumped over the white fence. So you have that in the middle. But because of me, and I'm animated, my hands are going all over the place. If I just cut that space out, next thing you know, it'll look like this. The brown fox, it'll be just totally all over the place. So I don't do that. So what I do is I will go in and I will highlight that breath part and I'll cut the volume on the breath.
Oh.
So it just sounds like I'm taking a tiny pause. And it's such a small one, but it doesn't really, it actually, in a way, it helps the flow. Because one of the problems that I find is a lot of my viewership are older people. Because of that, they're okay with things going slow. And if I start cutting every little sound or every little space out, it turns it into a much faster video. Young people love it. Because it's like, yeah, to the point. Because a lot of young people are like, I watch on 1.5 because
that's me.
But a lot of the older folks are like, I just want it to be like a casual conversation. Just take your time. I actually had somebody in the comments say, you should just take your time, slow things down. You'll actually get more viewer time if you do it that way. And I was just like, oh boy. But that's one of them. The second is if I have a cut where it just doesn't work, I'll do that little zoom in. So anytime you're watching a video and you notice like all of a sudden from one scene to the next, I'm zoomed in a little bit, that's because that was a cut I couldn't fix. So I zoom in. Other than the one, I zoom in for the, in the beginning, that very first zoom in, that's just there on purpose. When I go, this is going to be a good one. That there is the zoom in. So I do that on purpose. There's a couple of them that are on purpose, but if I can't salvage it, I do a zoom in. The other thing I will do sometimes too is if a zoom in is not appropriate. So for example, if I'm in the list part and I've got the graphics up, I can't really do a zoom in. So in those cases, I might just put a dissolve. So you may see, you may see a little dissolve there, but I'm like, okay, I'd rather have the dissolve than the jump, and that's kind of the three main editing tools that I use when I come through to do all of that. So it's fun and it keeps getting better. And that's the thing. I find that when you start YouTube, your skills are rock bottom and you're just learning more and more. And a lot of times, sometimes it's just I want to do something and I don't know how. So I might spend an hour on YouTube watching videos on how I can do this thing in editing, and then all of a sudden I've got a new tool. So that's always a fun thing to do. Whew. All right. Jonathan likes Amazon. Do you think OpenAI will ever go public? Yes, I do. I absolutely do.
They will for sure.
Yeah, there was a news article on this week. Oh gosh, it was probably about a month and a half ago, about some changes that were made at OpenAI that sort of opened the door, or at least took the first steps to move in that direction. So, yeah, OpenAI will eventually IPO for sure. I have no doubt. OpenAI will hurt Google so much. It's one of these things, isn't it?
Will they though? Because I know Google has their own.
They do.
They
And in a way, it seems
and
like
it seems to be doing pretty well. So do you think they will? It might hurt their like market cap and market share for a little bit, but I don't see a reason why Google would not collaborate with OpenAI.
Well, they're also. I find all of these different competing AIs tend to leapfrog. So whoever has the latest update tends to be the best. Whether it be Claude or is it ChatGPT or or ChatGPT 4.0 or ChatGPT 4.0 mini and ChatGPT 5 is about to hit. So and I think in some cases though, and this is kind of big. One big thing here for OpenAI is that with the new Mac, so with the new Apple Intelligence, well, they're going to give you the option. So if Apple Intelligence can't solve something, it will then prompt you and it will say to you, would you like me to check with ChatGPT to get an answer? So that's kind of part of that partnership between Apple and ChatGPT. So that's going to be interesting. Now, I have heard rumors that they might give you an option to go to a couple of different ones, maybe, because I know there was been a bit of a, kind of a bit of a pushback from a lot of other companies saying, hey, why can't they use mine instead of ChatGPT? So we'll have to see. I think it's going to be ChatGPT at launch for sure. Maybe in the future they might, have you have a couple of options like maybe ChatGPT, maybe Claude, or, it probably won't be the Microsoft Copilot, for example. I doubt that, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think it'll be very, very interesting to see how this is all going to boil down. Now, we're not going to see these Apple Intelligence until the next iPhone comes out, so that will be September. But it's getting closer.
Yeah, the hype is building already.
Oh, it really is. It really, really is. Let's see. Google became Google because they stole Yahoo customers away from Yahoo. Google can't afford OpenAI stealing Google customers. Yeah, I think in many ways it's going to be a situation where I think a lot of customers it's not that they're going to use one or the other. They'll probably end up using both, to be honest.
Yeah.
You'll be like, well, okay, ChatGPT, maybe they make pictures better. Maybe, Google's Bard, or that's not, I think it's called Bard anymore.
I think it's Nebula.
Nebula, yeah. Maybe Nebula does, maybe Nebula is better at math. So I think you'll have people sort of cross using a whole bunch. And eventually, and this is what I'm thinking, you'll have some company that comes along and they're going to be very innovative and they will create an AI that doesn't answer anything for you, but it uses all the other AIs to get you the perfect answer. So sort of like, you remember with search engines, back in the day when there were a whole bunch of search engines before Google dominated the market, you used to get these ones that would come along like a Dogpile, and it would basically pull from every other search engine to pull up all of the relevant links. And I think we'll probably see a point where we get an AI that's what it does. It just reaches out to other AIs and gets them to do all the work, but it pulls it all back together and gives you pretty much your best answer. So I wouldn't be surprised. Now, maybe that might even be if you have an agent. So an agent would be kind of like, so sort of the way the future is kind of gearing up to look. It's like you won't even need to go on the internet anymore. AI will go on the internet for you. So you will basically just talk to your AI, and your AI will be like, okay, what do you want me to find out? It'll go do all the work on the internet, bring back everything for you. So it would be what they would call an agent. And that's kind of interesting because even right now, if you look at traffic on the internet, almost actually more than half of it is robots, non-human. So there's and it's only going to get worse. And eventually the internet won't even be a place for humans. It'll be a place for AIs to, keep all the information, pull it all out, and we'll be off. I mean, we'll still have, like if you have a game, for example, you'll still have it. Although I did watch something the other night. This is funny. So I used to play World of Warcraft, and one of these, I watched a video on a guy who trained an AI to play WoW, and he had AI go in. It went in. It was having conversations with other players. None of them were even even aware. So even big games online could eventually get overrun with AIs. I'm pretty sure it's probably the terms of service for the game, but it's all happening, and that's going to be interesting to see how this all ends up going down. But I mean, imagine you take a game like that where there's a lot of things that you can do. You could technically get an AI to take over your avatar when you're at work or something, and send them off to do a bunch of stuff that you don't want to do anyway, like maybe go grind some reputation or something. So it's changing. The world is changing big time. Let's see. Bing added ChatGPT and it didn't hurt Google one bit. Yeah. I mean, you got to look at too. I mean, Google's a huge company. It's not that they just have Google itself. Like they also, they have YouTube. YouTube technically is a search engine. If you think of it that way, it's the number 2 search engine in the world behind, Google. Because, and it's even fun. Like even now when you go to Google, half the time when you type something in, you'll get a bunch of YouTube videos that will actually come up in the results as well. So I think it's very integrated that way. All right. Let's see. Al says it's like Apple. They are so far behind, but it isn't hurting them because they have upped their commitment to AI. Yeah. I mean, the thing is too with Apple, it was kind of interesting when a lot of people were complaining about Apple and Siri and not having AI behind the scenes. And I reported this on This Week a few times. Behind the scenes, Apple was out buying all of these little AI companies like crazy. They've just been gobbling up AI talent. So, when all of a sudden they do release the stuff on Apple Intelligence and stuff and what they're doing, all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, so they do have a piece in the game. But you can't. Apple is just. This is one of the things you have to realize about Apple. Apple doesn't broadcast what they're doing.
No,
they are as secretive as they can be. I mean, to the point that a lot of times, you have to hope for leaks to find out what they're working on. And sometimes the leaks are right, and sometimes they're absolutely wrong. So, which is fantastic for Apple, because if you are. If only half the leaks are correct, then people don't really know whether to take a leak seriously or not anyway. So, it's definitely kind of cool for them.
It builds up in the mystique. So when they actually do the full launch, all the buildup was already there. So it makes the hype of the event even better.
Yeah. So here we go. So Al is saying, let's see here. I find a lot of the times they don't know the answer. So I find ChatGPT isn't that good for searching. So out of 10, you give Google a 9, Perplexity is 9.75, and ChatGPT is like 7. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, and here's the thing. Once again, once ChatGPT 5 comes out, all of a sudden they'll be up at 10, And then when something new comes up, they'll no longer be at 10. They'll be down at like 9 and then 8 as others keep moving, because we keep moving the bar as the technology develops more and more. So it's definitely going to be very, very interesting to see. And it's funny when you follow tech and you kind of get a general idea of how much work is happening behind the scenes. Holy banana bread. You kind of get that feeling that, yeah, there's a lot of runway left for Nvidia for sure.
Oh yeah.
And it just points to that. So when you hear like these people saying, "Oh yeah, the Nvidia bubble's about to pop," you know it's not. You know you're safe.
They are the number one in terms of like just AI integration. So with the way AI is going, they're not going away anytime soon. They're the first ones that was already prepared like years ago before all
Yeah,
of this. Like you'll notice like the biggest tech servers, their first choice is Nvidia. Like their graphics computing units are in everything. And so there is no bubble. It's just like even like those little dips here and there, they are nothing in terms of the overall reach. So no, it's gonna get better and better.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. All right, guys, we're coming down to the nitty gritty. So questions for me, for JJ, or about stocks, whatever. Drop them in, and we'll get to them as time starts winding down. And
oh, is this the aftermarket
market
close?
just opened. The market. My coffee hit the bell, and it fell off my desk. It hit the floor, made some noise, and then it rolled. So,
I mean, who knows, Candace? Your next role would be making a new stock market. This is the new training session after the aftermarket trading.
The market is open. The banana market is open.
Time for a new stock exchange called the Banana Bread Stock Exchange.
Well, I mean, eventually, even the stock exchange is going to get taken over mostly by AI.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be very interesting to see how this all changes. So what I always say to people, and I'll say it to you guys right now, is don't be afraid of AI. But if you value your job and if you like doing what you're doing now, learn how to do it with AI. Yep. Learn how to use AI as a tool, because, there's no danger. Like there's no real danger to people for the most part. But there's danger to people who don't learn how to use AI. Sort of like when the computer revolution happened, people who lost jobs tended to be people who didn't have a clue about computers. And now everybody sort of has a general little idea on how to use them. Like you at least know how to use a browser and things like that. So, I mean, there are some jobs. Like, I mean, if you work out on the side of a road holding one of them signs, AI is probably not going to do that. Well, maybe not.
I think they could, honestly. They can, because they will never take breaks. You can just program a very simple bot to just stand there and do the most minimal interactions.
And there'd probably be less accidents too. So
exactly.
Maybe AI could do that too. See, there we go. There's my mistake of the day, thinking that AI would never do the sign thing. Oh dear.
Although I do think like, in terms of like its capacities, this would probably be like the most minimum. So not much research would probably go into this division, but anything is possible. Like it's a tool that's just going to get better and better. And those who integrate it are going to come out on top. Whereas those who don't and are scared of it, which is, I would not say natural selection at its best, but intelligence, like artificial selection at its best, something like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, Al says he doesn't know how to use Excel. That's okay. You don't have to have, like, when I say computer knowledge, I mean just knowing how to do basic things on the computer. I wouldn't consider Excel basic. I'd consider that more of I'd say moderate type of thing, or an intermediate. And the nice thing is we're now at a point. If you don't know how to use Excel and you're thinking, gosh, I sure wish I could use Excel, you can just go to ChatGPT and say, I know nothing about Excel. Could you teach me how to use Excel from the ground up? geared towards a beginner, and bang, it can provide you with lessons and actually show you how codes work and little things like that. And I mean, you can use Excel. You don't have to like learn how to do things like with Visual Basic or anything like that, because you can use that in Excel. And I did that once. And I was just like, oh, I don't want to do that again. But that was because it was actually funny. In a way, it was laziness. So I was designing a basically a form that the quality assurance team could use to rate people on the phones. And I had two different class of people that they rated. They had the customer service people and they had the tech people. And I was like, well, I don't want to make two separate forms. So I used Visual Basics to basically code it in such a way that it changed all the weighting of all the values depending on whether it was a tech call or a customer service call. So I basically made one form for everybody, but the programming just, it made it more relevant depending on which the person was. Now, if the person were to click the wrong button, then a tech person might get a completely different rating, because obviously the tech, I didn't put as much weight on the customer service. I put a lot of weight on the customer service, but not as much as a regular customer service person. So, oh dear. Anyway, that turned. The funny thing is, by not making one form and doing it with Visual Basic, I think it took me twice as long to make the one form than it would have made me taken to make both forms, because there was a lot of debugging. And plus,
Ouch.
I had never used Visual Basic before, so I had to teach myself on the go. So that's part of it too. Because like there has to be a way to do this, and then in the process of finding out, it's like, yes, you can do it with Visual Basic. I'm like, oh dear. So that's fine. And if you've ever done any kind of programming language, syntax can be fun, especially when it comes to debugging.
Oh yeah.
The initial coding takes you like what, an hour? And then you're debugging probably 5 hours. So
when it comes to like anything, any types of coding projects, when you're actually doing the coding part, it's pretty basic, because like all the overall rules are pretty much the same. Like most of like programming languages, they build on top of each other. Some of the minute details are slightly different, but then when it comes to debugging, I would say 95% is debugging, 5% is the actual writing part, and that's where like, because even the smallest mistakes, like for example, you just having like an extra period or like an extra hyphen somewhere, that's just going to crash the entire program, and you can
or a
spend like hours.
It'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other time too is I designed a back-end web site for a department. This is back when I used to work at Compaq, and so I was designing it. My boss comes up, he says, "Oh, it looks great." He was like, "What? How did you do that?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm just using PHP to do this." He was like, "PHP? Oh, I forgot to tell you, we're only allowed to use ASP.NET." I'm like, "Oh, wonderful!" And I had never used ASP.NET, so I went out and bought a textbook on it, and then figured out how to redo the whole thing in ASP. I was just like, ah, dear.
Was there like an ASP for like dummies or something? 101, one of those books?
No, I picked up this book, was probably like yay thick. Oof. I mean, big manual. But here's the funny thing: I kind of got my revenge, because this was just after HP had bought Compaq. So I asked him the coloration. He says, "Let's go with the HP colors because they bought us." I'm like, okay. Well, after it went live and we'd been using it for about a month, one of his bosses happened to stumble upon it and saw that we were using the HP colors, and he lost his job. They fired him for it, and because they came to me first, and I said, "Look, I thought we should use the Compaq colors. He told me to use the HP colors." And they were like, "Okay, change it to Compaq colors," and then he got fired. I was just like, so.
Was there a particular reason why? Because wouldn't you want to use the acquired company's colors and not stick to the old ones?
Apparently, there was some kind of legal reason, because we were still in the middle of the takeover, so we weren't allowed. Apparently, until they give you the go-ahead to use HP colors and branding. There's a whole bunch of complications behind that, and we just weren't allowed to yet. And he kind of knew that, but he was thinking, and this is what he had told his boss. He was like, well, I was thinking because it wasn't external, it didn't matter. So that was his excuse to why he broke a rule by getting me to do it that way. So, yeah, I mean, and I imagine because, if he got fired for that, there was probably other stuff too. There had to have been other stuff, because I find it really silly that somebody would get fired over a color. But, that color was probably like the straw that broke the camel's back. Oh, dear. Anyway. We've gone on a lot of tangents here today. It's okay, Al. I had heard of Visual Basic, but I didn't really know a lot about it until I had to use it, and that's kind of one of those things. See, when I was in tech, one of the funny thing is, when I went to tech, I went and took a course on A+ because I wanted to get A+ certified. So my professor of that course, he said to me, I said, "What's your greatest piece of advice?" And he said, "Never say no." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "If somebody asks you if you can do something, say yes. And if you don't know how to do it, you're going home that night and learning how to do it."
Oh,
He says,
yeah.
that's how you're successful in tech. And I was like, okay, cool. But yeah, so one of the funny things is, so my learning style is when I went to take the A+ course, I took the textbook and I just read the textbook. And then I went and I took my software and my hardware exam before I'd even finished the course. And so I came in and I'm like, got certified. And they're like, what? They're like, you're the only student who's ever actually gotten certified before the course finished.
Wow.
The course did pay. It was part of the, your exams were covered under the course. But yeah, I
Oh,
just was
wow.
like, hey, I've finished reading the book. I'm ready. So, I sat through, I still stuck around for the last part of the course because it was kind of fun. But yeah, it was just one of those things. So, and luckily I got my A+ just before CompTIA changed the rules. So I think it was about 6 months after I got my A+ that they were no longer lifetime, that you had to get them renewed. So mine was one of the last lifetime ones. So I'm still technically A+ certified. So, and by the way, just for those who don't know what tech is, A+ is just a computer certification, meaning that you can pretty much troubleshoot and build computers and all of that fun stuff. It's not anything great, but at one point, if you wanted a job in tech, it used to be a nice little thing to have. Oh, yeah, and even now, I don't even know if people do it anymore. It's been so long.
I don't even like looking at job requirements. I don't even think A+ certification is like very much of a thing anymore. Like, is it?
It probably isn't. I mean, this was around when I think it was around 2000 or something in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So I think nowadays a lot of like CompTIA used to have A+. You could also get Network Plus and a few other different ones as well. I think they had a Security Plus as well, but their whole shtick was that they were cross-platform. So you were learning about Windows and everything else, everything from Windows, Apple, you name it. So they were putting a bit of everything in it. So that way there you could be a general all-around technician that way.
Gotcha.
So, we even covered MS-DOS.
MS-DOS? Like
Yeah.
docs?
MS-DOS, it's basically that's just before Windows 3.0. Like DOS used to be the background running behind a lot. Like even Windows 95, you could get an MS-DOS prompt.
Okay.
So that used to be behind. Like, so right now on Windows, when you go to command, it's not really MS-DOS anymore, but it is based out of MS-DOS now at this point. But yeah, it used to be a way that you could do things behind. Like you could go in, you could do basic things. For example, like you could ping other computers. You could do trace routes if you were having difficulty with getting a package through on the internet. So you could sort of see where things are getting caught up. So there's a lot of different things you can do. You could also go in and release your IP, or you can get access to the registry going through there as well. And so, yeah, a lot of things you could do with DOS. But now, I don't know. I haven't touched a Windows computer now in a long time. So I think probably the last one I touched was maybe 10. I think I might have had a quick look at 10, but I haven't touched one in forever. So just something to say.
If you do remember your last Windows computer, what was it and what was the model?
Oh God, I think my last one was I believe it was running Windows 8. It wasn't a model because I built it myself. Because I always just built them myself, because that way there I got what I wanted, and a lot of times I found they just lasted a lot better by doing it that way. So yeah, and I think I actually ended up giving it to my mom when I switched over to my Apple ecosystem. And nowadays, I think when her house burnt down, it went with it. So oh no, it was a good thing for her in many ways. She hated her house, and there was a electrical, basically a surge that came in. It caught a treadmill on fire, sent black smoke through the house. So the house didn't burn to the ground. It's just the smoke damage. It was a total write-off. But with insurance and everything, she ended up getting, they built her a brand new house, and she built it the way she likes it. So she ended up with a better house. So nothing wrong with that.
So nothing was salvaged from the fire?
I don't think so. I think most stuff wasn't. There's probably some knickknacks that she might have been able to get out of it, but for the most part, everything was coated in a thick black smoke.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and she did lose the cat, her family cat at that time.
Oh.
Because it was one of these situations where you had seconds to get out, because it just was, you couldn't see a thing. It was just pure. It was like a wall of black smoke coming at you. So she managed to get the dog out, but now the cat was like almost 20 years old. So the cat was on her last legs anyway. But, the firemen did manage to get the cat out, but it was too late.
That's like a terrible way to go, especially when like in older age. Like
no, I agree.
You don't like smoke inhalation, like dying from like that. I think that's like one of the worst ways to go, because it's like so painful and long. It's almost like drowning, because like drowning does not happen very instantaneous. It's like it takes minutes. Like think about those last minutes of like pure agony. Oof.
Yeah, no, exactly. Jay says I started using Ubuntu Linux. Ooh, and the last Windows I used is XP. Yeah, XP. Oh boy, that was a while back. That was like early 2000s.
Early 2000s, yeah.
Yeah, Millennial was 2000, and that was, I think that goes down as the worst version of Windows ever. Although, funny little story here. Before we go, I'll tell you this funny story. So, one of my first jobs after I got my tech training is I went to work for Com. And I started initially on the phones. Well, one day I got this call from somebody, and this was around the times of Windows Millennium, so like 2000-ish. And a Walmart in the US found an old pallet of computers that had Windows 3.1 on them. So I actually had a call where somebody called in and they were like, yeah, I'm running Windows 3.1. And at that point, there's really little troubleshooting you can do. It comes with like 6 little floppy disks. They're not the floppy, they're actually more the hard ones. But I was just like, okay, you got those 6 disks, put in disk 1. And you're going to basically just reformat it, because that's pretty much all you could do with those. But the worst thing is, because they were sold by a Walmart and they were old as can be, they still came with 1-year warranties, so they still got support. So that was kind of funny. Oh dear. Let's see. The last Windows I used were roll down. Good one, Jersky. Oh yeah, good old roll downs. All right, what do you got going on this week? Anything fun?
Well, we actually just yesterday we submitted one of the 3 grant applications. So that took so much agony. So at least that's one less thing to work on. I'm currently going through, because I need to also submit my first thesis chapter for my PhD. So like pretty soon, for September. So I've been like cramming on that. Deadline is approaching soon. And then, yeah, we have
Get that done. Get your PhD done and you'll be Dr. JJ.
Well, actually, I'm in my very early stages of the PhD because I did switch over from my master's last year.
Oh, okay. So you got a little bit more time.
Oh, yeah, a long way to go. So there's that. And then we have 3 more grant applications to submit. So one of them is due August 15th, another one is due the end of August, and then another one is due in middle of October. Because the one we submitted like last night, that's kind of like a simplified version of the upcoming document and upcoming grant document, and that one is it's a really big one. It's like 30 pages. It's like a 30-page grant application. It's I can't go into too much details about it, but it's from NSERC, so like the National Research focus on innovation and engineering. So that one. So that there's that, and but on like a personal note, my partner, he does have a couple of cousins visiting from Congo, so Democratic Republic of Congo. So they were visiting recently. So I guess we'll hang out with them for a bit. They're living in a little bit further away from Montreal. So
okay,
there's that. Yeah. So some fun times.
Sounds like you'll have a fun weekend.
Fun is one way to put it.
All right. Well, this will be our last question here. Michael is wanting to know what happened to HELE today. So I believe that's Helen of Troy. You know what? The first place I'm going to go is I'm actually going to bring them up here to see if there's something here that some kind of news on them. HELE. All right, here we go. Helen of Troy. Oh, I think I've already got them on. I think I've already added them, my friend. Let's see here. Whoops. That's not what I meant to click on. There we go. So if I added them, they're probably down towards the bottom here. HELE. Oh, where the banana bread are they?
Probably somewhere near the top.
Well, normally it adds them at the bottom, so that's weird. I don't see them. I will let's try this again. HELE. I'm just going to click on it. Oh, this time it showed up. Okay. Oh, you know what? I clicked on it last time. I bet you I accidentally deleted them. Here we go.
Probably.
LE.
Oh.
All right. So yeah, I can see they made this big progress here. We don't have earnings involved, but let's see here. 52 weeks consumer stock that may explode. Helen of Troy crashes amid distribution center. Okay, here we go. And that's why I love this site, is that normally I can go in here and find something going on when something crashes, especially that much. So you can see here that, let's see here. HLE investors suffered substantial losses to submit your losses. Okay, firm also encouraged person with, all right, let's get rid of that part. Here we go. So Helen of Troy finds itself under increased scrutiny regarding the progress of its restructuring plan, particularly functioning of its recently opened distribution center in Galloway, Texas. So basically, yeah, there's some stuff going on inside. And you know what? I believe you can see this. I'm going to drop this link here for you, Michael. So if you want to read the whole thing, you are more than welcome to. There we go. But yeah, that's one of those things. A lot of times, and it's why I always say, pay attention to the news. And that's one of the reasons, I keep saying I like TradingView for that reason. I can pull it up and, without trying to figure out what's going on, I was able to find out, yeah, right there. There's what's going on. So definitely something to look at for sure. All right.
Ian says hi at the very end.
I see that. I'm at work right now. Well, congratulations, Ian. Congratulations. All right, guys. We're at the end. This is it. We've
This
almost
is a
gone
long
2
one.
hours. These things normally only go about an hour and a half. So anyway, thank you, JJ, for dropping by. It was always
My
fun
pleasure.
to have a visit from you. And for you guys, hey, thank you guys for being here, because if you guys weren't here, my conversation would be rather awkward as I'm talking to nobody. So until next time, everybody, take care. Have a good evening. Hopefully the market is good for you the rest of the week. All right.